My name is Artyom Bukhanovsky and this is the Home Chef Culinary School. Today, I invite you to cook along with me. One of the most popular dishes in Scandinavian countries, Norwegian fish soup. What makes this soup special is its wonderfully delicate creamy flavor, and it also includes tomatoes and a bunch of other interesting ingredients. So let's get cooking. First of all, we need to make a rich, flavorful broth, so we'll take fish bones. I have bones from red fish here, but it also turns out very rich and flavorful. When you make the broth, from white fish bones, you can use pike perch, crucian carp, really any kind of fish, and the broth will be rich enough as long as you cook it properly. So first, we place our bones into pot and gently pour in cold water. Let's remember, if we want to get a rich and flavorful broth, we carefully and gradually add the ingredients, specifically into cold water or cold oil, depending on what we're cooking. If we want to keep the product as juicy and flavorful as possible, then we place it into boiling water or preheated oil. Let's add some more water. Turn the stove to maximum heat so the water heats up much faster. It's starting to heat up. About a minute before it starts boiling, we'll need to lower the heat to medium or below medium to avoid a vigorous boil. That way, the broth will cook properly. So, while the water is heating up, let's take one onion. I intentionally didn't peel it. I just washed it thoroughly. Then cut it in half like this and add it to our future broth. Let's also take a carrot. Why did I add it with the peel on? As you might already know, you probably know from Easter that onion peel gives a delicate and subtle aroma to the future broth. And most importantly, it gives an interesting color. We'll also take a carrot and cut it slightly into small pieces like this and add it to our future broth. That's it. Now we wait until the water is almost boiling, and in the meantime we'll prepare the rest of the ingredients. Cut the potatoes into fairly small cubes. This is done so that first of all they cook faster, and secondly so that when you eat your soup, each spoonful contains several ingredients. I just don't understand when people do this. They cut the potatoes into big cubes, and when you eat, you end up with just potato in your spoon. There's no room for anything else. That's why it's best to cut the ingredients into smaller pieces. Like this, look, a really small cube. The potatoes are chopped. We transfer it into a deep container. And for our young viewers, we make sure to cover it with cold water so the potatoes don't darken, because starch, when it comes into contact with air, starts to oxidize and turns dark. So pour in some cold water, and you can even store it in the fridge for a day or two. Just make sure to change the water. That's it. We set it aside and move on to the onions. We will be using both green onions and regular onions. Green onions, we slice them crosswise. Like this. Both green and regular onions will be added to the soup just right before serving, so they release their aroma and give it a wonderful fragrance and flavor. We set it aside on a small plate. It's a fairly simple recipe, but I assure you, it will really surprise you. It's very interesting and most importantly delicious. Now we gently peel the onion. And now we need to chop the regular onion as finely as possible into crumbs, not cubes, but actual crumbs. So take a look, my water is starting to gradually boil. Here the bubbles are starting to appear. Now we'll lower the heat just a little, slightly. Let's wait until the broth heats up, almost boils, then I'll reduce the heat a little more. So, to chop the onion very finely, first we need to slice it lengthwise into thin strips. And only after that we'll cut it crosswise. So, the thinner you slice the strips, the finer your minced pieces will be. That's the idea. Divide in two parts for convenience. Then now we cut across also as thinly as possible, and we end up with this wonderful fine mince. If your cutting board slides on the table like mine does, use a paper towel, or you can take a regular cloth towel, slightly dampen it with water and place it under the board. That way nothing will slide around. That's it. Just like I did right now. Alright, the onion is ready. We'll set it aside as well. Cherry tomatoes, we simply cut them in half. If your cherry tomatoes are on the larger side, you can cut them into quarters instead. Again, just to make them easier to eat. And we place them on a plate as well. If you chop cherry tomatoes into small bite-sized pieces, then during the cooking process, they'll just lose their shape. It'll turn into mush. So tomatoes. And we'll also need one more ingredient for the recipe. Fresh thyme. Here, we'll only need the leaves, so we'll strip them off the stems and set them aside. You can actually use the sprigs as well. They also add aroma, but you'll just need to remove them from the soup later, so I'll probably do just that. I'll leave it as a bunch. Well, how else? It smells amazing. Alright, now we wait for the broth to cook, and most importantly, don't forget to skim off the foam that forms. And we let our broth simmer. I specifically call the process of cooking broth simmering, because we're not boiling it vigorously. For an hour to an hour and a half. If you cook it over low heat, you can even go for 2 hours. The broth will turn out even richer. So let's finish cooking the broth and prepare our delicious soup. Alright, our fish broth is now ready. We cooked it for an hour and 40 minutes. And now we can carefully use a skimmer to take out all of our fish bones. We'll still need them later. We place them on a flat plate so they cool down faster. Next, we remove all the vegetables. We won't need them anymore. just like that. Then we drain the water from the potatoes they were in and transfer them into our broth. After that, we can just slightly increase the heat. And while the potatoes are cooking, we'll very carefully and gently separate the meat thoroughly from the bones. This is very easy to do. Look, along the bone. We just run a finger along it and remove all the meat. Just like that. We've separated the meat from the bones. Now we can add it to our broth with the potatoes. Take a look at just how much meat we got. This soup is going to be just right. So we carefully add everything in. And stir it all together. If you take a look into the pot now, pay attention. See how rich everything looks? Now, the potatoes are almost fully cooked, just about 3-4 minutes left. Now we add the tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, fresh thyme, and pour in the 33% cream. Alright, we mix everything thoroughly and continue cooking until the potatoes are completely done. The potatoes are now fully cooked and we can start adjusting the flavor of our soup. Now we add green onions, regular onions. Mix everything together and just let the soup come to a boil. In the meantime, we'll add just a bit of salt and pepper. Salt added, and freshly ground pepper. Mix it all together. Take a look at these beautiful rich colors we have. That's it, the soup has come to a boil. Turn off the heat. Perfect, all's good. Our Norwegian fish soup is completely ready. We can start serving it into bowls. Just take a look at how much fish meat we have. Now let's pour in the broth. Perfect. So the Norwegian fish soup is now fully ready and we can sit down at the table. Enjoy your meal. And don't forget, this soup is perfect for any season or weather.